I think in a lot of cases, people be surprised of what life is like on the inside. We hear a lot about what a company's like to work with. I think we all speculate, and a lot of people will tell you what they think it's like. But to actually get a viewpoint inside a company is valuable and interesting. So um, I've been looking a little bit at Diamond as we've gone through all this news and what's going on with them in DC and are they in trouble? Are they not in trouble? What's the true story? And you look for data, and nothing is 100% conclusive. But just going online, you can actually learn a lot about a company's culture. So let's go into that. Hey everybody, this is Perch. I was having a chat with Wes, a guy who runs and is part of Thinking Critical, and we were talking a little bit about comments that Diane Nelson had made about Diamond, which was basically that this move of DC's to separate itself from Diamond is not surprising because when she was running the company, and she was running the company during one of its strongest periods, she had big concerns about Diamond's modernization and kind of their ability to stay solvent and a lot of pretty big questions, I would say, about is this a viable business? And it's interesting to see those comments. Obviously, they're coming out now, and so you could say, well, okay, this is all hindsight is 2020, but she's a reputable person. You can believe her that these were concerns. And to back that up a little bit, I just started looking online at places like Glassdoor and Indeed. And to give you a sense of that, these are both sites that are intended to provide an inside look at a company, really for the purpose of both recruiting and maybe negotiating about a salary. People can go on anonymously, post comments about the company, post how their interviews went, if they were interviewing there, and just give kind of the inside scoop at a company. It's like an anonymous social network for business where people can communicate. And one big disclaimer about both these sites: they operate not like clickbait, but a little bit. The more kind of dramatic the comment can be, the more attention it typically gets. And keep in mind that many of the people posting this stuff tend to be disgruntled employees. They tend to be people who are frustrated with the company. And actually, Glassdoor, part of their business model is to try and get you as a company to sign up to their services. And even though they expressly say, if you sign up to our services, it doesn't allow you to kind of, take down bad reviews or edit them. There are benefits as a company, and you definitely start being shown as in a more favorable light. So part of the Glassdoor approach is, employees come in, they kind of insult the company a bit, or you get some bad reviews, and then Glassdoor typically starts to reach out to that company to say, hey, why don't you get a premium, package with us? You can fix some of these things people are talking about. You can respond to it, or you can, have your say, or you can post jobs here and kind of counteract some of what's being said. So it's a little bit of a racket, not entirely, but there's a feeling of a racket in there. So you always take these things with a little bit of grain of salt because they do tend to skew a lot more negative. But the best way I've found to approach this is to look at the aggregate, meaning look at a bunch of these different reviews and look for the common threads that kind of are said over and over and over again. And with Diamond, it's very, very quick with both sites that you get some very common complaints. The one that sticks out immediately is people commenting, even people, by the way, who like it, who rate the company kind of 5 stars or 1 star. A consistent piece of feedback is that the IT in the company is painfully old. And you see a lot of people making very clear comments about the software is from 30 years ago. Nothing nothing is digital exists in the 21st century. Software that required to do your job regularly crashes. The company has an opinion of, well, that's the way we've always done it about everything and never makes improvement. It has no IT department that has a modern mentality or anything from the last 15 years. So as you look through, you just see that comment over and over and over again of just like, and with some details like, hey, most of the systems here are using Windows 97. This is a comment that's posted January of this year. It talks about how software is just painfully old. And so, and even people who are the site tends to operate on a pros and cons model. So again, even people who are going, I love this company, I'm glad to be here. In the cons, they will say things like, pretty ridiculous technology. pretty painful technology. No upgrades, no modern equipment. Computers that have the battery is fried. That the point you have to, if you've got a laptop, you have to leave it plugged in all the time. Is another comment because it's so old and nobody will replace it. And I think that checks out. If you're a retailer and you're seeing kind of the other side of the curtain, that's what you see about the company. I think the other thing that kind of sticks consistently through is this idea of really poor pay. So now this is a common complaint with a lot of jobs, a lot of companies, but you see this over and over again of, you have to leave the company in order to get a raise, or there's just no, severely underpaid, expected to work long hours, expected to work late if the job isn't done at no additional pay, or, no training. And then if you make mistakes, you're expected to just put in the hours, even if you had no idea what you were doing. Basically, very demoralizing in terms of you get nice coworkers, but management ignores you, or it's completely disorganized, and therefore a lot of extra hours have to go in to just do basic things. I think you get. And just that theme of kind of disorganization. So poor pay and disorganization. I look at comments like the product, in the floor is strewn everywhere. Management doesn't seem to care. The quality doesn't matter. Nobody really ever penalizes you for putting damaged product into the boxes. And these are comments that date back from 2008 all the way to today. Basically, there's a lot of comments right around January, February timeframe, right before they did the furloughs, that talks about very, very negative approaches to how a lot of this stuff works. And it's funny. You see a lot of people in kind of the web side of the world, or director in digital distribution. There's one really telling one where it talks about how the person was hired to take a management position within digital, and that the person had to fight and basically climb an uphill to do anything digital, whether it's just basic promotion or any kind of future, and talked about it was so important to the future of comics. This person put in extra hours to get it done, but it was not listened to, and CEO was non-existent. That's another piece of comments that come through over the span of 10 years. You see a lot of this of in particular, Steve Jeppe is just doesn't, some comments like, we saw him once in a year, or, he just, emails never get answered. And I don't know if this is an email somebody sent to the boss. Those typically don't get answered, but it's interesting to see these consistent themes. One of the ones that really struck me is people talking about being hired on as a temp, and then kind of convinced to take a staff job at the pay, as the temp pay didn't go up, or it didn't change any. Very, very poor health benefits, and then weird rules, like you get a half an hour lunch break, and then you can't wear hats while you're eating your lunch, and just is very kind of strange kind of behavior. So anyway, it's interesting to see this common thread. And then I take it back to this whole situation that's happening with DC. And again, if you're a newly acquired property and you're trying to make sure that you're making your mark and that you're able to, make some progress as a company, then, why would you saddle your futures as a sole distributor, as an exclusive to a company where I have no idea if somebody from Time Warner or HR or anybody within AT&T would look at this site? I know for a fact that AT&T does scope out with companies they acquire, kind of their Glassdoor ratings and their online reviews. And if you're seeing this stuff as saying, okay, so our product with this division that is expected to ship and grow is dependent on one's point of failure, and that's Diamond. And when we go on, we see their employees talking about product on the floor and Windows 97 and software thrown around area, and nobody cares, and the CEO is absent and doesn't show up. That's going to create an impact. That's going to create concern. It would, unless you were insane, it would create a lot of concern. And so it's just all these pieces are here, and this is where I go back to in this industry. Anyone who is shocked by DC's decision to drop Diamond is kidding themselves. The retailers who are saying, I can't believe anyone stabbed somebody in the back, you're nuts. You look at this history, you look at this stuff. The real surprise is, why didn't this happen sooner? And why is Marvel still dealing with it? Why is Image still dealing with it? That's more the shock. I get the concerns. By the way, I 100% get the concerns about Midtown and Discount Comic Book Service and other competitors, and where's your data going? And I've really appreciated the comments, including some retailers coming into my comments and saying, hey, you're crazy, or whatever. I appreciate your feedback. I do. But it is interesting to me that there's so much shock. And when I see people shocked about this move, I have only one of two conclusions. Either you're inventing that shock a little bit, or you were truly not paying any attention to what was going on. And I think the wake-up call for retailers, or anybody in comics, or frankly any business, forget comics, any business anywhere, you have to pay attention to what's going on. If you're not paying attention, you're not gonna survive. And I made the comment, and some people took it very harsh, of you shouldn't be running a business if you're not willing to pay attention to the industry and what's going on around you. And I say that for your own sake. You're going to lose all your money. You're not going to survive. So you need to pay attention to stuff like this. And I think the lesson for Diamond, the lesson for everybody is, you got to look at, you got to spend some time looking at the outliers. If some guy on YouTube with handful of subscribers is able to quickly pull up Glassdoor reviews and look and see what's going on, I mean, I hope others are too. It doesn't take much time, and anyone can do it. And that's where, you got to poke your head out a little bit and kind of look around and evaluate where you're at if you want to survive. Anyway, what do you think of all this? How legitimate is this stuff? Do you think it is worth paying attention to? Is an interesting insight into a company? Have you ever done this stuff? Leave a comment below. We'd love to know your thoughts on it. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch. But most importantly, thanks for listening.